The Accidental Encounter. Marcus Chen dragged his leather briefcase through the revolving entrance of the Grandview Plaza Hotel, his shoulders aching from tension that had become his constant companion. 48 hours of negotiations with hostile board members had drained every ounce of energy from his body. His reflection in the polished glass doors showed a man who looked older than his 34 years. Dark circles under his eyes, jaw clenched even in exhaustion, the expensive suit hanging on a frame that had forgotten what a proper meal tasted like. The lobby buzzed with the usual hotel symphony, rolling suitcases clicking across marble floors, business people talking too loudly into phones, the soft jazz playing from invisible speakers. Marcus barely registered any of it. His mind was already calculating tomorrow's strategy, next week's portfolio adjustments, next month's expansion plans. The perpetual motion machine that was his life never stopped, even when his body begged for rest. At the front desk, a young clerk with an overly enthusiastic smile handed him a keycard. "Room 809, Mr. Chen, 8th floor, left from the elevators. We've upgraded you to a corner suite as requested." Marcus mumbled his thanks and headed toward the brass elevator doors. The ride-up felt longer than it should have, the mirrors reflecting multiple versions of his tired face back at him. When had he become this person? When had success started feeling like a prison sentence? The 8th floor hallway stretched out in both directions, identical doors with brass numbers blurring together. Marcus turned left, counting doors until he reached what he thought was 809. The key card slipped into the electronic lock. Green light. Click. He pushed the door open, already loosening his tie, already thinking about the shower and the bed and the blissful silence. But silence was not what greeted him. "I don't care what you think you're owed, Trevor." A woman's voice, sharp with anger and something deeper, fear. "I've paid you back 3 times what I borrowed. You're holding on to that contract out of spite." Marcus froze in the doorway. A woman stood with her back to him, phone pressed against her ear, her other hand gripping the edge of a cleaning cart. She wore the maroon uniform of hotel housekeeping, her dark auburn hair escaping from a messy bun. Her shoulders were rigid with tension, and even from behind, Marcus could see she was trembling. "No, I'm not coming to meet you. We're done, Trevor. We've been done for 2 years. Her voice cracked on the last words. Marcus should have backed out immediately. Should have closed the door quietly and found his actual room. But something in the raw emotion of that moment paralyzed him. He recognized that tone, the sound of someone fighting a battle they were losing, someone drowning and trying to convince themselves they could swim. The woman turned suddenly, perhaps sensing a presence, and her eyes went wide with shock. She was younger than Marcus had initially thought, maybe late 20s, with striking green eyes that were currently bright with unshed tears. Freckles dusted across her nose and cheeks. She looked exhausted and furious and terrified all at once. "I'll call you back," she said into the phone, her voice suddenly flat. She ended the call without waiting for a response. They stared at each other for a long, awkward moment. Marcus became acutely aware that he was standing in someone else's room, or rather a room where someone was working. The cleaning cart blocked half the doorway, fresh towels stacked neatly beside bottles of cleaning supplies. "I am so sorry," Marcus managed, heat creeping up his neck. "I thought this was my room. I must have read the number wrong." The woman blinked, some of the fight draining out of her posture. She glanced at the brass numbers on the door, then back at him. "This is 807. You probably need 809, easy mistake." Her voice was steadier now, but he could still hear the tremor underneath. She was working hard to compose herself. "Are you all right?" The question escaped before Marcus's rational mind could stop it. He had built a billion-dollar investment firm by keeping emotions separate from business, by not getting involved in other people's problems. But standing in this accidentally entered room, looking at this stranger who was clearly in pain, all his carefully constructed walls felt suddenly irrelevant. The woman's eyebrows shot up. "That's a weird question to ask someone whose room you just barged into." "You're right," Marcus acknowledged, but he didn't leave. "But you look like someone who might need to hear it." For a moment her face did something complicated. Surprise, suspicion, and then something that looked almost like relief. Her shoulders dropped slightly, and Marcus watched her internal debate play out across her features. The mask she'd been holding in place slipped just a fraction. "I'm fine," she said automatically, but her eyes told a different story. "Just dealing with some personal stuff. Nothing that concerns random hotel guests who wander into the wrong rooms." Marcus found himself stepping further into the room instead of backing out. Every logical part of his brain screamed at him to apologize again and leave, but his feet wouldn't cooperate. The person on the phone, Trevor. He's the reason you look like you haven't slept in a week? The woman's laugh was bitter and sharp. You're either incredibly perceptive or incredibly rude. I haven't decided which yet. Maybe both, Marcus admitted. He set his briefcase down by the door, a gesture that felt significant somehow. I'm Marcus Chen. She studied him for a long moment, taking in his expensive suit, his designer watch, the general air of wealth and success that he couldn't quite shake even when he was exhausted. Violet Hayes, she finally said. And yes, before you ask, that was my ex-boyfriend. The one who thinks he still owns me because I made the mistake of accepting help when I was desperate. The honesty surprised him. Violet seemed surprised by it too, judging by the way she pressed her lips together immediately after speaking, like she wanted to take the words back. What kind of help? Marcus asked gently. Violet shook her head, turning back to her cleaning cart. This is ridiculous. You don't know me. I don't know you. You should go to your actual room and I should finish my work. Let's just pretend this awkward moment never happened. But Marcus didn't move. Something about Violet Hayes had cracked open a door inside him that he'd kept locked for years. The part of him that remembered being the kid whose mother cleaned houses to keep them fed. The part that remembered what it felt like to be trapped by circumstances, drowning in problems that money could solve but you didn't have money to solve them with. When was the last time someone asked how you really were? He heard himself say. Not the automatic "how are you" that people don't actually want answered, but really asked? Violet turned back to face him, and this time there were tears threatening to spill over. Why do you care? People like you don't notice people like me. I'm invisible. I clean your rooms and fold your towels, and you walk right past like I'm part of the furniture. The observation stung because it was absolutely true. How many housekeepers had Marcus passed in how many hotels? Never once wondering about their lives, their struggles, their stories. He had become exactly the kind of person he'd once resented. Someone so wrapped up in their own world that everyone else became background noise. You're right, he said quietly. And I'm sorry for that. But right now in this moment I'm asking, are you okay, Violet Hayes? She stared at him like he was some kind of alien creature, something she couldn't quite categorize or understand. Then slowly she sank down onto the edge of the freshly made bed, her hands twisting together in her lap. No, she whispered. I'm really not. Beneath the surface, the diner Violet suggested was nothing like the restaurants Marcus usually frequented. Red vinyl booths, laminated menus sticky with decades of use, a flickering neon sign that buzzed in the window. It was perfect, anonymous, unpretentious, real. Violet had changed out of her uniform into jeans and a faded sweater. Without the hotel backdrop, she looked younger, more vulnerable. She slid into the booth across from him, fingers nervously tracing patterns on the table. I still can't believe I agreed to this, she said. Meeting a stranger at a diner to discuss my catastrophic life choices. Marcus smiled. If it helps, I can't believe I suggested it. I don't usually barge into people's rooms and demand to solve their problems. So what happened? Midlife crisis? Sudden attack of conscience? Maybe both. Marcus watched as the waitress poured coffee neither of them had asked for. You want to know the truth? I've spent the last decade building something I thought mattered. Making money, closing deals, climbing ladders. And somewhere along the way I forgot why any of it mattered in the first place. Violet wrapped her hands around the coffee mug. At least you have money to show for your existential crisis. I have debt, broken dreams, and an ex who won't let me move on. Tell me about Trevor. She hesitated, then the words started pouring out. Trevor Mansfield, charming at first, attentive, generous. He'd helped when her mother got sick, loaned her money when medical bills piled up. But the help came with strings. The loan came with interest that compounded impossibly. And when Violet tried to leave, tried to pay him back, he'd produced a contract she barely remembered signing. He owns me, Violet said flatly. $65,000. That's what freedom costs, apparently. Every month I make payments, and every month the total somehow stays the same. He's designed it so I'll never escape. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. That's not what I'm offering. Marcus pulled out his phone. I run an investment firm. I also run a charitable foundation that nobody knows about because I've never known what to do with it. It was supposed to be my way of giving back, but it's just been sitting there accumulating funds because nothing felt right. What are you saying? I'm saying I could set up a legitimate debt relief program. Make it look completely above board because it would be above board. Trevor gets paid off through what appears to be a non-profit initiative. You receive the benefit along with other people in similar situations. He can't claim it came from you. He can't hold it over you. Violet stared at him. That's insane. Probably. This doesn't happen in real life. Billionaires don't walk into wrong hotel rooms and offer to pay off strangers' debts. I'm not a billionaire. Just very comfortable. Marcus smiled. And maybe this is exactly what happens in real life. We've just all been too cynical to notice when it does. Violet was quiet for a long time. Marcus could see the war happening behind her eyes. Hope battling with fear, desperation fighting with pride. Finally she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. If you do this, and I'm not saying yes, but if, Trevor can't know it came from you. He'll see it as a challenge. He's not just greedy, Marcus. He's possessive. He'll find a way to make it worse. Then we'll be smart. We'll make it airtight. Why? Violet's eyes shimmered with tears. Why would you do this for me? You don't owe me anything. We're strangers. Marcus realized he didn't have a good answer. He barely understood it himself. But looking at Violet Hayes across this sticky diner table, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Connection. The sense that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Because I walked into the wrong room, he said simply. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like the rightest thing I've ever done. Violet wiped her eyes with a paper napkin. You're completely crazy, so I've been told. Is that a yes? She took a shaky breath. It's a very cautious, very terrified yes. Marcus felt something shift in his chest like a door opening onto a room he'd forgotten existed. Then let's get you free, Violet Hayes. And then let's talk about building that community center. The conspiracy unfolds. 2 weeks later, Violet stood in the cramped break room at the Grandview Plaza, staring at her phone like it might explode. The email had arrived that morning from something called the Metropolitan Community Relief Initiative. Dear Ms. Hayes, we are pleased to inform you that your application has been approved for debt forgiveness under our Financial Freedom Program. Your outstanding obligation of $65,000 has been satisfied in full. Her hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped the phone. Everything okay? Her supervisor, Rachel, poked her head into the break room. You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, Violet managed. Just some good news. But as Rachel left, Violet's phone buzzed. Trevor's name flashed on the screen. Her stomach dropped. We need to talk. Now. She met Marcus that evening at a small park 3 blocks from the hotel. He was sitting on a bench looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him in jeans and a simple jacket. When he saw her face, though, his expression changed immediately. He knows something's wrong, Violet said, sinking onto the bench beside him. Trevor called me 15 times today. The debt relief organization contacted him about the payment, and now he's suspicious. That was always going to happen. The program is legitimate. You don't understand. Violet's voice rose. Trevor doesn't care about legitimate. He cares about control. That debt was never about the money. It was about owning me. As if summoned by her words, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. Violet's entire body went rigid. He's here. Marcus, you need to leave. I'm not leaving you alone with him. You don't understand what but Trevor was already approaching, his expensive suit perfectly tailored, his smile sharp as broken glass. He was handsome in a dangerous way. Cold blue eyes, strong jawline, the kind of looks that had fooled Violet into thinking he was her savior once upon a time. Violet, Trevor said smoothly. Aren't you going to introduce me to your friend? Marcus stood, extending his hand. Marcus Chen. Trevor's handshake was aggressive, competitive. Trevor Mansfield. I'm Violet's former business associate, though it seems someone has interfered with our arrangement. The debt relief program is completely legitimate, Marcus said calmly. Violet qualified based on her income and circumstances. How convenient. Trevor's smile didn't reach his eyes. Tell me, Mr. Chen, what's your interest in my ex-girlfriend's financial situation? I have no interest in your ex-girlfriend's financial situation. I have interest in helping people trapped in predatory lending situations. The mask slipped from Trevor's face for just a moment, revealing the ugliness beneath. Predatory? I helped her when no one else would. I was generous. You exploited someone's desperation, Marcus interrupted. And now you're upset because your leverage is gone. Trevor turned to Violet, ignoring Marcus entirely. You think this is over? You think some non-profit fairy tale erases what we had? I know you, Violet. I know how you think. And I know you didn't suddenly qualify for some program. Someone paid this off. Someone who wants something from you. Leave her alone, Marcus said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. Trevor laughed. Or what, you'll throw money at the problem? That's all people like you know how to do, but money doesn't protect her from me. I have lawyers. I have connections. And I have a very long memory. Actually, Marcus pulled out his phone, pulling up a document. I also have lawyers, and they've been very interested in your lending practices. Turns out charging 400% interest violates several state laws. That contract Violet signed? Unenforceable. And the 3 other women you've trapped in similar situations? They're very interested in joining a class action lawsuit. The color drained from Trevor's face. You're bluffing, am I? Ask your lawyer about the letter she received this morning. Marcus's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Walk away, Mansfield. You got your money. Consider yourself lucky I'm not pressing charges. For a long moment, Trevor stood there, rage radiating off him in waves. Then he turned to Violet one last time. You were nothing when I found you. You'll be nothing without me. She was never nothing, Marcus said quietly. You just needed her to believe that. Trevor stalked back to his car, the engine roaring to life. As the taillights disappeared around the corner, Violet realized she was shaking. Not with fear this time, but with something else entirely. Relief, rage, liberation, all mixed together. Did you really find other women? She asked Marcus. 3 of them. They came forward after my lawyer started asking questions. He turned to her. You weren't his only victim, Violet. Just his most recent. Violet sat back down on the bench, her legs suddenly unable to hold her. It's really over? It's really over. She started crying then. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere she'd kept locked away for 2 years. Marcus sat beside her, not trying to fix it, just being present. When she finally caught her breath, she looked at him with wonder. Who are you really, Marcus Chen? He smiled. Just someone who walked into the wrong room at exactly the right time. Building something real. 3 months transformed everything. Violet stood in the empty warehouse space Marcus had helped her secure. Blueprints spread across a folding table and felt something she'd forgotten existed. Joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. The space would become the West Side Youth Center, offering after-school programs, mentorship, and safe spaces for kids who needed them most. The contractors say we can start renovations next week, Marcus said, coming up behind her with 2 coffees. He'd made this a habit, showing up at random times with coffee and ideas and a presence that had become essential to her life. I still can't believe this is happening. Violet took the coffee gratefully. 6 months ago I was drowning. Now I'm building a dream. You're building it. I'm just helping with the logistics. But it was more than logistics. Marcus had introduced her to donors, helped her navigate nonprofit paperwork, sat through endless planning meetings without complaint. More than that, he'd believed in her vision when she'd barely believed in herself. Violet had enrolled in nonprofit management courses at the community college. Nina, her sister, had transferred to a university on a full scholarship, something Violet could finally support without drowning in debt. Her mother's health had stabilized with consistent medication. Everything was falling into place like puzzle pieces she didn't know she'd been missing. Marcus, she said softly, thank you for all of this. He set down his coffee and turned to face her. Violet, I need to tell you something. Her heart skipped. They'd been dancing around something for months now. Lingering glances, accidental touches, conversations that stretched late into the night. But neither had been brave enough to name it. These past 3 months have been the best of my life, Marcus continued. I restructured my entire business because of you. I'm shifting focus to philanthropic investments, sustainable ventures, things that actually matter. You made me remember why I started all this in the first place. I didn't do anything. You did everything. He stepped closer. You reminded me what it feels like to care about something real. Someone real. Violet's breath caught. Marcus, I'm still figuring out who I am without Trevor's shadow. I don't want to jump foe. Your sister is going to have opinions about this, Marcus said. Violet laughed. Nina already has opinions. She's been dropping hints for weeks. And she thinks you're good for me. Says I smile more now. Do you? Yeah, Violet admitted. I really do. They spent the rest of the afternoon planning, dreaming, building toward a future that felt impossibly bright. Marcus showed her donor pledges that had come in, enough to fund the center for the first 3 years. Violet showed him program ideas she'd been developing, partnerships with local schools, mentorship structures that could change lives. As the sun set through the warehouse windows, painting everything in gold light, Violet felt a peace she'd never known. The scared woman in that hotel room felt like a different person entirely. She'd been transformed, not by Marcus's money, but by his belief in her, by her own rediscovered belief in herself. There's one more thing, Marcus said as they packed up for the day. I bought the building next door. Violet blinked. What, for expansion? I figure in a few years when this center is thriving, you'll want to grow. Maybe add a culinary program? I remember you mentioned wanting to teach kids to cook. Tears pricked Violet's eyes. You remember that? I remember everything you've told me. Violet Hayes, she kissed him again, deeper this time, full of promise and gratitude and something that felt dangerously close to love. But as they locked up the warehouse and headed to their cars, Violet's phone buzzed. An unknown number, a text that made her blood run cold. Congratulations on the youth center. Looks like you found yourself a sugar daddy after all. Their hand tightened on the phone. Trevor was supposed to be gone, finished, out of her life. But apparently he wasn't ready to let go. Marcus saw her face change. What is it? Trevor knows. About the center. About us. She showed him the text. Marcus's jaw tightened. He's just trying to scare you. He can't do anything. You don't know him like I do. But Marcus wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Then we'll handle it, together. He doesn't get to take this from you, Violet. Not this time. She wanted to believe him. Standing there in the parking lot, wrapped in Marcus's confidence and warmth, she almost did. But a small voice in her head whispered that Trevor Mansfield didn't make empty threats. The storm wasn't over, yet. The door that changed everything, the email, arrived 1 week before the youth center's grand opening. Violet read it 3 times before her hands started shaking. Ms. Hayes, we have received concerning information regarding the funding sources for the Westside Youth Center. An investigation into potential financial impropriety will delay your scheduled opening pending review. City Licensing Board, he did this. Violet's voice was hollow as she showed Marcus the email in his apartment. Trevor found some way to sabotage everything. Marcus was already on his phone calling lawyers, but Violet knew the damage was done. Rumors were circulating. She'd heard whispers at the hotel, seen suspicious looks from volunteers. Trevor had planted seeds of doubt, and they were growing. We fight this, Marcus said firmly. Every dollar is accounted for, every donation legitimate. They'll find nothing because there's nothing to find. It doesn't matter. Violet sank onto his couch. The damage is done. People will always wonder, always whisper. He's poisoned it, Marcus, just like he poisons everything. For 2 days, Violet spiraled. She stopped answering calls, stopped going to the center, stopped believing that good things could happen to people like her. Marcus tried to reach her, but she pushed him away. She'd been stupid to hope, stupid to dream. Trevor had proven what she'd always known. Escape was an illusion. On the 3rd day, Nina showed up at Violet's apartment with coffee and fury. Get up, her younger sister demanded. Right now. Nina, I can't. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. Do you know what Marcus told me? He said you taught him that dreams are worth fighting for, that people are worth fighting for. So where's that woman now? Where's the sister who clawed her way through every obstacle to put me through college? This is different. It's exactly the same. Trevor is a bully who uses fear as a weapon. And you're going to let him win? Violet looked at her sister, brilliant, fierce Nina, who had thrived because Violet had fought for her. What am I supposed to do? You tell the truth. You stand up, and you let people decide for themselves what they believe. That evening, Violet called an emergency community meeting. She expected a handful of people. Instead, the high school auditorium filled to capacity. Marcus sat in the front row, steady and supportive. Nina beside him. And faces Violet recognized from the neighborhood. Parents, teachers, volunteers, kids who needed the center. Trevor sat in the back, arms crossed, smiling. Violet took the podium, her notes trembling in her hands. Then she set them aside and spoke from the heart. My name is Violet Hayes. 6 months ago, I was trapped. I worked 3 jobs, drowning in debt to a man who used my desperation against me. I had dreams once, big dreams about helping kids from neighborhoods like the one I grew up in. But dreams felt impossible when survival was all I could manage. She saw Trevor's smile falter. Then something unexpected happened. A stranger walked into my life at exactly the right moment. Marcus Chen didn't just help me escape that debt. He believed I could be more than my circumstances. He helped me remember who I wanted to be. And yes, he funded this youth center. But every dollar is documented, every donation legitimate, every decision transparent. Her voice grew stronger. Someone has tried to destroy this center before it even opens. Someone who wants to see me fail because my success threatens his power over me. But here's what he didn't count on. I'm not alone anymore. And this center isn't about me. It's about every kid in this room who needs a safe place. Every teenager who needs mentors. Every family that needs support. She looked directly at Trevor. You can investigate all you want. You'll find nothing but honesty. Nothing but people caring about their community. And if you still want to shut us down after that, then you'll have to explain why to all these people. The auditorium erupted in applause. Parents stood. Teachers cheered. Nina was crying. Marcus was smiling like she just won the lottery. Trevor left without a word. The investigation cleared the center in 5 days. The grand opening proceeded on schedule, and over 300 people attended. Marcus cut the ribbon alongside Violet. Their hands intertwined as cameras flashed and kids ran through the doors to explore their new space. You did it, Marcus whispered. You really did it. We did it, Violet corrected. That night they stood in room 807 of the Grandview Plaza. Violet had requested it specifically. The hotel had donated it for the night as a celebration gift. This is where it all started, Violet said softly. This wrong room that changed everything. Marcus pulled a small box from his pocket. Actually, I have a theory that it was the right room all along. We just didn't know it yet. Violet's breath caught as he opened the box, revealing a simple, beautiful ring. I'm not asking you to answer now, Marcus said quickly, but I'm asking you to think about it. About building a life together. About opening more doors for each other, for the community, for everyone who needs someone to believe in them. Tears streamed down Violet's face. You walked into my life when I was at my lowest. You didn't try to save me, you helped me save myself. You didn't try to fix me, you helped me become who I was meant to be. Is that a yes? It's a very definite, very joyful yes. They kissed in the room where they'd met, where a wrong turn had led to everything right. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. But inside room 807, 2 people who had found each other against all odds held each other close and dreamed of all the doors they would open together. 1 year later, the Westside Youth Center served 400 kids and was expanding. Marcus had left investment banking entirely, dedicating himself to philanthropic ventures. Violet ran the center and taught cooking classes 3 nights a week. Trevor Mansfield had moved to another city, his predatory practices finally catching up with him. And every anniversary, Marcus and Violet returned to room 807, holding hands and remembering the beautiful accident that had transformed them both. Because sometimes, the wrong door is exactly the one you were meant to walk through all.